Gracious Father, we want to thank you for the chance to be here today. Be with Dr. Tonstad. We ask that you watch over him and give him words to speak. In your name, amen.
So we have reached the end of our series. We had originally planned to have 5 topics, but we added one, so we have 6 topics. And the last one, though, that was planned from the beginning, was revelation and time. So just to repeat what Forrest has said, next weekend on Friday night, Bruce Longenecker, who was my doctoral mentor at the University of St. Andrews, he will be here. He is a leading New Testament person. He has just published a book on findings about early Christianity in Pompeii, when the volcano erupted and froze everything in time. So there is a lot of interest in what they have dug out there, and he will share that. He has just published a book on that. And then he will be a guest here in this class in the next Saturday, and then we'll have our book panel in the afternoon. I hope that you will come and bring people here. I'd like him to meet as many people as possible when he's here. It is his first visit to a Seventh-day Adventist campus. So here we are on Revelation and time, and you can see that this is a little different, because these are more sort of physical things, and time is indeed more elusive. But Revelation and time is an important subject. Just before I get to our text, I would like to say a word of thanks to Forrest Howe and to Dave Larson and to the Branson class for letting me do this series. I had not planned to do as much as we did, and I had not planned to learn very much new. I just thought I would just take stuff I have thought about before. But I learned quite a few things. And I learned one very big thing, and very grateful for that. So the learning experience for me was worth it. Just a note on the city. In Revelation, the city, the New Jerusalem, is shaped like a cube, like the most holy place, to indicate that there is no longer any difference between sacred and secular space. All space has been sacralized. We all live forever in the most holy place, in God's unmediated presence. So that's worth saying. And then I want to say something about a note on what it takes for something to succeed. It doesn't happen by itself. Ask Elizabeth Warren. Ask Bernie Sanders. You can even ask Donald Trump. There is a reason for why they keep up what they do. They want to succeed. And if we want something to succeed, we have to learn from people who work hard at succeeding, whatever it is they wish to succeed. And forgive me for saying that. Now to our images. So I gave it just in words, but now, how do we begin? With the name, and then the tears, then the earth, then the city. This is St. Andrews, where I have studied, the New Jerusalem. And here is the nations, and now today we will do time. Now, if I were to do this again, and if I want to do some more work on it, I will add 3 more images. And the 3 more images will be the door, because Revelation is very interested in doors. And the door is a good one. And then the river, and then the tree. So then that will be a few more images. Don't you like them? Wow, what a book. What a book. Someone asked me, there are other events here, but it's hard to compete with a book like Revelation. Just a couple of sort of introductory remarks on time and history. There are people, excellent scholars, who have written books. There is a book with that title, actually. But someone has said chronology is the backbone of history. And that is something I accept. I am not going to go into it in detail here today, but I do I do accept that history cannot be told without some sort of chronological skeleton. So let's not argue with that. Let's keep that in place. And then Ernst Käsemann, who is one of the leading New Testament people, who led the movement that revived what is called interest in apocalyptic writings, the apocalyptic books, apocalyptic mindset, outlook, worldview. In the 1960s, he wrote a book on this topic, and he said it was apocalyptic, which first made historical thinking possible within Christendom. And I do not disagree with that either, that apocalyptic is we have, shall we, can you hear me? We're okay? Yeah, so books like, not just books like Daniel and Revelation, because there is more to the apocalyptic sort of, the worldview is everywhere in the New Testament, but he says that historical thinking owes to apocalyptic rather than just merely some of the prophetic books in the Bible. And I do not disagree with that either. I do think that is a valid thing. Now we have many expressions about time. Time flies is one of the most popular ones, isn't it? In the nick of time, and can you think of some others? In the 11th hour, something about time. Yeah, killing time, whatever. Time flies is one of the most common, and we probably agree with that. This is our daughter, Lynn, our oldest daughter, when she was little. This is when she graduated from Yale, and that's already 10 or 12 years ago. And time does indeed fly, I carried her for 2 hours every night the first 2 years of her life, because she was very couldn't sleep. She was crying a lot at night, and the happiest days of my life were those 2 hours, those 2 years when I carried her around. I don't like it that time flies, I'm against it, but it does. So, all right, let's read our scripture reading for today. If we could get, I think today we can just ask for volunteers. So I'd like us to read these verses in Revelation 22. We will read them again, but we just want to set the stage for our topic today. Do I have anyone who will do that? Yes, thank you. Jeff, thank you.
Look, I am coming soon. Blessed is the one who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. Look, I am coming soon, and my reward is with me, to give to each according to his or her work. The one who testifies these things says, surely I am coming soon.
So which is the time word here? So there is a time word when you get to the last chapter of Revelation, and the time word is soon. We will return to it, but just to get it, sort of start our thinking around it. Revelation has many other categories of time, or has several categories of time. There is this one, the time is near, which is close to soon. Time is short, a short while. These are different translations. And then you have soon 3 times in Revelation 22. So we have near, and we have short, and we have soon. And those are what? Those are qualitative measurements of time, aren't they? Because you don't exactly know how near is near, how short is short, how soon is soon, So you have, we don't have any point to start it us off, and we don't have a point to finish. But all of these terms, qualitative terms, they come with a sense of imminence, don't they? They convey imminence to some extent, and that is considered to be one of the characteristics of what people call apocalyptic. Now here you have a point in time, or it has been seen as a text that defines a point in time. So the 4 angels were released who had been held ready for the hour, the day, the month, and the year to kill 1/3 of humankind. Horrible stuff happening there, but there is a sense that something is, moving to a point in time. Most likely this should also be understood qualitatively as a decisive point in time, as a decisive event, something big happening there, and history readying itself for that decisive point in time. Now, we might comment on a little more on that text in a minute. Here are a whole list. I think this is pretty complete. You can look it over yourself and see if I missed any. But here we go from very short periods, but these are all quantified, time quantified. I like this one, half an hour. When the Lamb broke the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Now, you have to look, those of you who have my commentary, please look up and see how we interpreted that. There is half an hour, there is 1 hour, there is a single day, 3.5 days, 10 days, 5 months, 42 months, 1260 days, times, and half a time. These periods are the same. They refer to the same length of time by different symbols. Then you have 6 times in just a few verses in chapter 20, 1,000 years. And then we have forever and ever, which is both quantitative and in some ways qualitative. You have, this is the longest period of time in Revelation is a time forever. So anyone wishing to comment on this list? Did we miss any? There are no seconds there, no minutes. I think half an hour is the shortest one, but half an hour is a while, so when the Lamb broke the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. It's an interesting, isn't it? So we had then qualitative time, point in time, and quantitative time. Now, to say something about approaches to the book of Revelation, and you can say it like this and it will be true. Most readings of Revelation, it is all about time. Time is it. Doesn't matter which sort of school of interpretation you do, the horizons differ, but they have in common that they are all time-bound. Time is the defining element in how they approach the book. We have what is called preterism. Preterism looks to the past, as this guy does from Mount Rushmore. The arrow points backward. Preterism thinks that most of the stuff that you read about in Revelation is fulfilled in the past. The horizon on preterism is the Roman Empire. It is the Emperor Nero. It is the prediction that the Emperor Nero is the beast in Revelation 13, who received a mortal wound and who will be resurrected and come back and stage a big comeback. That is the most widely held view in and most Adventists have just flown over this territory and never noticed. Many of you have not probably heard that for most academic scholars, they think that the preterist approach to Revelation is the correct one, and the historical referent is the Roman Empire. That's the main thing. So when you go out and write a book like I do, in a non-Adventist context, the one view you have to address and do you agree that the Roman Empire is the main referent? You cannot bypass engaging with that way of looking at things, even though we like it's like this, that you have readers of Revelation divide into various communities, and you have the preterist community, you have our community, you have the futurist. Futurism is the opposite of preterism. The arrow to the future, face turned toward the future. And all the main issues in Revelation deal with things that have not yet happened. And so the futurist project is a kind of, it fits our time in many ways because it has no controls. You can just say, well, now it's the oil in the Middle East. Oh, here it's Gog and Magog. It must be Russia. It's communism. There is no, it's quite free. Very interested in the book of Revelation. That is, we have a, yeah. So are we, am I hearing you? Okay, sorry about that. Thank you very much for the good help you are giving us with the technology here. That's very kind. So, the Left Behind series, 16 volumes of books that were written here in the US, which is a kind of fictionalized account of the book of Revelation, sold 60 million copies. And many of the leading politicians in the US have read those books. They are serving in your legislative bodies, and they hold futurist ideas about what is going on in the book of Revelation. And quite a few of them, not a few of them I should say, believe that you are, as a politician, obligated by the futurist script of prophecy. So this is a big one. That is a much bigger community popularly. Now, in the academic community, most scholars are preterists. Very few scholars are futurists. The scholarly community thinks that futurism is a joke, and they hardly dignify it with any sort of, serious engagement. But it is definitely, in terms of market share, the biggest one. So, all of these slides have as a headline, it is all about time. Futurism, preterism, futurism, and our own historicism. Historicism is also primarily interested in future events, but not just end-time events, not just the very, very last part of history. Historicism thinks that the horizon should be all of history from the time of John till the end of time. That's also known as the continuous historical view, historical continuity, but it is still about time. All of these approaches are time-bound. They make time and events, certain events in time, the main thing. And in that sense, the Adventist sort of commitment to historicism differs in terms of the time we are discussing, but not whether or not time should be the defining view in our approaches to Revelation. I hope you can understand that. Here is my view. It is not all about time. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't about time, but I am saying that to make time the defining element in this book is in some ways a compromise. I think you could actually put at risk some of the most important insights in this book. Now, because Revelation thinks that there is a problem that needs to be solved. It isn't just interested in predicting events, future events, this event, that event, final events. It is interested in solving a problem. And the problem that needs to be solved is what we call the cosmic conflict, that something happened that unbalanced, cosmic realities, earthly realities, something went wrong, and how to fix it, that is the main thing. So it cannot just be about time. And so in my representation here, I found this one. This guy looks both ways, to the past and to the future, and you understand the future in some ways in light of the past. Why is the person in Revelation 12 called the ancient serpent? Ancient serpent. Well, where are you now? If you want to talk about ancient serpents, you are back in the book of Genesis. So the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, shows awareness of the first book of the Bible. So, but this would not be time-bound. This will be theme-bound. And if you could say that the time-oriented interpretations of Revelation also are event-centered. You hear what I'm saying? Time-oriented, event-centered. Is it this event? Is it that event? And so on. Then my recommendation, saying that it is not all about time, it is not all about certain events either. It is more about certain values. So you have an approach that isn't all about time, but it is very much about contending for certain values, certain questions that need to be answered, and so on. So here in our faith community, we said that chronology is the backbone of history, and here is one representation. This is familiar to many Adventists. And there used to be a time when the faith identity of people in the Adventist community was tied up to this chart, and many people mastered it. Many people knew how to do it. So here we are. I think this is the sort of main line of chronology. So chronology is the backbone of history. We're beginning back here, 677. I missed that one, but 538 is a day. This is 538 BC. This is 457 BC. And here we go now. We are after Christ, 538 AD, and 1798. This is, 1260 days. So this used to be. So was our community invested in the time element in Daniel and Revelation? We have made huge investments in the time element. We have in some ways staked these books on the time element and events, related to these dates. Now, should one abandon that? Should one sort of back off from it? Should you do 538 to 1798 today? I am actually not against doing it for reasons of exegesis, even though history is a very, very wily animal. History tends to be diffuse, tends to be messy when we want it to be neat and specific. 538 is a messier date than we'd like it to be. 1798, supposedly when Napoleon puts the Pope in exile, is not such a neat and easy date as one wants to do it in the historicist scheme. But that is not my main reason, That's not my main reason for having skepticism about the time-centered interpretation. What could be another reason for sort of backing a little bit away from time-centeredness now, other than cosmic conflict, which I also mentioned? So the last day go ahead.
I said relevance. If we are talking about 1798, it's less relevant for me today. If we talk about cosmic conflict, it might be a lot more relevant for each and every one of us.
Yeah. So we agreed on this ahead of time. She is planted here. But whether or not we did this ahead of time, we do agree on that. So when you lived in the early 1800s, 1810, 1820, it's not, it's easier to sell a date like 1798. But history played games with us, and time deposited many more events on our dates. So time makes, in some ways, obscures the relevance issue. That, I think, is a big one. Yes, let's have a comment from here.
Right here, Sharon.
I think our clutching certain dates as being, this is the time, when we study it, we discover that no, as you say, it's messier, may keep us from interpreting and understanding things that are happening right now. I think it's the 9th chapter of Revelation talks about people who have been scorched by the sun. People are being scorched by the sun right now. A terrible epidemic is spreading around the world. Are we just saying, oh, another epidemic? Or are we thinking, is this the beginning of something else?
Yeah. Good point, very good point too. That you put some dates in there, those are your main things, and then things happen and you don't quite know what to do with it. Now, Seventh-day Adventists in Germany in the 1920s, they had very clear, they were very literate, biblically literate when it came to prophecy. They knew Daniel, they knew Revelation, they knew who was the enemy, except that they didn't, because they had a focus. They had been sort of trained, conditioned to think a certain way about religious movements, and here comes this monster. And you have no idea what to do with it. In fact, you think it is a good thing. So there is a kind of the Adventist community fell into line with the rest of the Protestants in Germany and were largely supportive of the Nazis, supportive of Hitler. He is going to clean it up. He is going to make Germany great again, so it goes. So that is an issue. There is the issue of focus. There is the issue of relevance. There is the issue of events in our time, that may not get, where do you put it? Where do you put Hiroshima? Where do you put the Holocaust? Where do you put space travel? Where do you put the population explosion? Where do you put ecology, if you care about that? Issues like that. So the sense of prophetic relevance is in some ways put at risk if the date you wish people to remember is 1798. That is enough said about that. So was there a hand here? Comment? Okay, I will go on from there. So in the sort of background noise now, or background that we have in our faith community, we have these conceptions and a very ambitious way of sort of reproducing history. Can I give one more reason why I think this is unwise? Agreeing with the comments we have had here. It also often means that the use of these books will be in the hand of a few experts. So in the Seventh-day Adventist community, people feel they understand Revelation as long as there is 1 or 2 or 3 people who explains it to them. So I have said to my friend John Pauline here that you Adventists do not understand the book of Revelation, but they think that you understand it for them. And there are a few other people who understand it for them, and maybe some people here think that I am understanding the book of Revelation for you now, which I am not. to have this historical orientation requires significant historical expertise, and the writing of history has become even more complicated, and very few lay people will feel confident. So we do Revelation as seminars with somebody who can explain it for us to a largely defenseless audience who knows even less than we do, and that's why they get, and so on. So anyway, the other time issue, and this slide was actually given to me by a surgeon here, Ralph Thompson, who has taught a lot about these issues. And here we have the 1,000 years as a time element in Revelation, where certain things are supposed to happen before those 1,000 years, and some things afterwards. And I do not disagree with the way he has represented that. It's fine. All right, let's go back to our scripture reading and read it again. Could I have someone read it again, the same text? And now we will focus on a time element in Revelation that we can use. Yes, Julie, thank you.
Look, I am coming soon. Blessed is the one who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. Look, I am coming soon, and my reward is with me to give to each according to his or her work. The one who testifies these things says, surely I am coming soon.
Okay, and can you see what I have put as the headline for those texts? Revelation and the time that counts the most. So which sort of time concept in Revelation would be sort of, no risk attached to it, no problem. It is textually sound. It is at the end of the book, and we have now passed beyond 1798, or no more dates to guide us here. We're in a sort of no man's land, except for the word soon. That word is still there, and that is the word, the time word that Revelation projects for us in the book ending, in the 22nd chapter. There is actually one more term quite like it, so 4 of them. So what is soon? How do you break that down? So I looked it up, and soon in this context could be a word that qualifies the action. So what if it qualifies the action? What does it mean then? Is the person who drives the car, does he drive like Serena, or does he drive like Dana Stallion? Serena drives very slow, and Dana moves much faster through the world. I don't mean to ruin anyone's reputation here, but I just thought I'd say it. So it's faster, It qualifies the action. Does the person who is coming soon, does he move slowly, in very sort of, sauntering toward his destination, or does he hurry to get there? That is soon as qualifying the action. Or soon qualifying time, that the person who is coming soon comes without delay, he comes right away, he comes at once. That is the other one. So you want to comment on these options and embrace one or the other or both? Yes, let's have a comment here.
I think if you're talking about soon, it doesn't make sense. He hasn't come soon. It's been a long time. So I think it's a command that in the way we are acting, we need to do it right, because maybe our time we don't have as much time to do evil. I think it has a organizing command. Do it right.
Okay.
Because it may have to end.
Any other comments on soon? Yes, Roger?
I've concluded that the emphasis on quickly, it's how he comes. When he comes, he's not going to hesitate. He's going to come quickly. However, I think in the days that we live, maybe it's a time prophecy that's relevant today concerning soon. It could be as we look at conditions today in the world, especially global warming and the buildup of armaments, nuclear, all kinds of issues now that could bring an end to civilization overnight. So maybe it is soon. Maybe if he doesn't come, there will be nothing to come back to.
Any others?
Right here.
Yeah, one more.
Even Paul thought Christ's return was imminent, and so imminence is all through the Bible, and unfortunately, it has not happened. I had another question. Revelation is imbued in horrible violence and bloodthirstiness and what have you. How much of this can we associate with perhaps mental illness of the, and I mean real tangible things, or maybe there were drugs or something growing around the area? Because some of it sounds really, really strange.
Okay. I will let your comment stand as a comment. I will say something about soon, that yes, it might just seem that the word soon needs to be retired, that is a word we can't use anymore, but that is the word we have. And you are right that Paul has it too. Salvation is closer to us now than when we came to the faith. But now we have another 1900 years passed after he said that. So, but that is the term we have to work with.
I suspect that to God, who is using free choice as his fundamental mechanism, he is very busy helping people see his character so that things can come to an end. He's constantly the process is constantly being torpedoed and blasphemed. And so God has to resurrect. We stayed, but for him it's rapid. It's very rapid.
But there are some stories in the Gospels that do put some intrigue or some sort of puzzlement in it. So there is a message going out from the two sisters in Bethany that Lazarus, whom you love, is sick. And, Jesus registers the message and he talks to the disciples and he says Lazarus is sick, and then a little later he says that he has fallen asleep, and then he lingers another 2 days and he arrives afterwards and they say, if you had been here, it would not have happened. There is a kind of perplexity. There is a kind of legitimate perplexity on our part about the timing of certain events and some interventions. If you had come earlier, we would have been spared this. And then Jesus says, your brother will be resurrected again. So I think our sort of puzzlement, bewilderment here is legitimate when we when we read these words. But nevertheless, the word is soon. So let's have one more comment here and then move on. John.
Now is the way of what we take this soon according to human time or about to God's time?
All right. Okay. All right. So, yes, let's have one more. Thank you.
Oh, even in human time is a matter of perception. Sometimes time seems to move very slowly, sometimes very fast. And if we think about, even if we believe in a short chronology for the earth, 6,000 years? And I'm going to live to be 90 at best? My goodness. Even if the Lord waits another 100 years, it would be very soon. But I always remember the parable of the 10 virgins, whether we understand this or not, the wise virgins were the ones who were prepared for a delay in the coming. And we Adventists ought to be prepared for a delay, even if we rejoice that he might be coming soon.
I think that point is a good point. And it seems to me that Adventist theology is much better at giving an account of why things are not happening as soon as you had thought than to say again and again this mantra, it's happening soon. You know, Jesus is coming in our lifetime and so on. When I started medical school, or was thinking about starting medical school, someone tried to talk me out of it, you know, on that usual argument, you know, it's coming soon, you know. Well, so so let's look at, so here is one more concept of time that I think could compete. So the word soon, the scriptural word for time, that is the most important word at the ending of Revelation, is the word soon. That is the concept of time in the text that is in some ways the dominant word, the viable term. But I want to put up a competing term. If there is a term that is as important or even more important that also relates to time, it is this concept, in the meantime. You know, because what is it you do in the time available? What is it, you know, how do we live? Soon doesn't instruct us on that one, you know. But the text of Revelation toward the end, it oscillates between saying he's coming soon, I'm coming soon, and then picturing something that is happening in the faith community. How does the faith community conduct itself in the meantime? You follow me? So there is soon and there is in the meantime. And here is something that I am asking you to to engage with as something that happens in the meantime. Let's have one reader do it first, and then we'll do it some other way. Can we have this text read? You have a mic? Yes, thank you. Zach.
Revelation 22:17, and the Spirit and the bride say, "Come." And let the one who hears say, "Come." Let him come. And the one who would like to have it, let him and her take the water of life as a gift.
Hang on to the microphone, keep it. So now Zach is our narrator. He will read the texts that are not in quotation marks. Where's the other microphone? Yeah. So let's see. Yes, thank you. So you are the Spirit and the bride. And the rest of us, we are the one who hears it. So we're going to do this twice and see if we can do it right. So Zach Plantak is the narrator. He reads what is not in inverted commas. You are the Spirit and the bride. The rest of us are the ones who hear it. And then back to the narrator. So let's start and see how this works.
And the Spirit and the bride say,
"Come."
And let the one who hears say, "Come." And the thirsty, let him come. And the one who would like to have it, let him and her take the water of life as a gift.
Now let me say that was a start, but I thought it was quite pitiful. If you can't do better than that, we have worked in vain. We need to do much better than that. You know, we need to put a little more feeling, a little more volume into the, you know, the one who hears it, right? Let's do it again now, and you know, this is your final chance.
And the Spirit and the bride say,
"Come."
And let the one who hears say, "Come." And the thirsty, let him come. And the one who would like to have it, let him and her take the water of life as a gift.
This is what happens in the meantime. It's not soon, it's not 1260 days. It is in the meantime. It is what the believing community is doing in the meantime, isn't it? And what is it doing? What is and I did a sermon once many years ago when I said the message of the Bible in one word And which was the word? The whole message of the Bible in one word. I took the word come. It's the final word, and there is much to it. Let's read these texts too. Zach, did you surrender your microphone? So do you have the microphone still? Can you? Yeah. So you read what is in speech, direct speech, and he reads the narration.
On the last day of the festival, the great day, while Jesus was standing there, he cried out,
"If anyone is thirsty, let him and her come to me and drink." Go ahead.
Go ahead, that's yours.
As the scripture has said, out of the believer's heart shall flow rivers of living water.
And then Isaiah.
"Oh, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you that have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without price."
Okay, this is the Old Testament background text for the John and Isaiah doing the same. So we see in Johannine literature the same thing about coming, that the thirsty is invited to come and drink. We have an Old Testament background text in Isaiah. The thirsty are invited to drink. I'd like us to do the ho word together. Hoi. Isn't it hoi in Hebrew? I think it's like hoi. Or ho. We can say ho. We can do it in English. Let's just do it. Ho.
Hoi.
Let's do a bigger one.
Ho.
Get the point. So the speaking community is speaking out in order to be heard. But the speaking community is also speaking out because it thinks it has a good message. It thinks it can bring good news. It can bring a good reality to bear on a broken world. And so it speaks with some enthusiasm about, what it has to offer. So here are my comments on this. What to do in the meantime. And that seems to be where Revelation sort of signs off. The water of life in the end, let him take of the water of life. The water of life is drawn from the river of the water of life. And that must mean that water from the healing river of the future is available in the present. There is a blurring of the boundaries between the future reality and present reality. Because when he says, let him come and drink, it isn't just saying, let him drink this water in the future. It is, let him drink this water in the present. Do you see? So there is a blurring, just like there is in Jesus. If anyone is thirsty, let him come unto me and drink, and out of his life shall flow, and so on. So these are things to think about. Humanity at the end is addressed as if in a state of need. The need is thirst. Humanity is not presented before God in any other way than a state of need, nothing but need. So you stand before God in a state of need, and offer is made to people who are in a state of need. To us who do eschatology, that's what is important here. Thirst is a need at a visceral, elemental level, and not a need that breaks into intellectual propositions. Thirst is, many things. It can actually be intellectual things too, the need for a question to be answered, stumbling blocks, It can be other things, pain, hurt, whatever. In the biblical, things, you can all subsume it under thirst. And soon is a more important concept of time than the 1260 days. If there is a more important notion of time in this book, it is what we do in the meantime. That's my sort of take on that. So can we do our little exercise here? While Wolfgang, he gets some help, I'm going to give you a bottle of water, sparkling water, not living water. And I just would like to just make that as a symbol of what Revelation puts in as a sort of ending there. that we have a witnessing community who deals in water and passes on the offer of water. And this is how that sort of existential need is addressed by in the poem that was made to be the most important poem in Norway a few years ago. It is the dream we carry, that something wonderful will happen, that it must happen, that time will open, that our hearts will burst open, that doors shall open, and the mountain shall open, that springs will gush forth, that the dream will open, and that one morning we will glide into a cove we didn't know existed. This is, in translation, it is a much better poem in Norwegian, but you get the idea that there is something, a kind of existential need in the world. Revelation identifies it as thirst, and it offers itself as a message to relieve our thirst. So you can open the bottle now, share with the person next to you, or not open the bottle now, take it home with you and drink it with someone else. When you do, if you do, you will explain to that person why we did this exercise, and the sort of water metaphor, what to do in the meantime. And then we will end with Cohen, and you have the text. I'm doing this song again, and I looked at about 50 songs about water that I could use for an illustration here, but then I decided to stick with Leonard Cohen, and he says that. Let your mercy spill. Yes, no. Let's see, this one here. Yes, he says that if it be your will, if there is a choice, let the rivers fill, let the hills rejoice. So now I'm letting you hear Cohen, and thank you very much.